Simply Cooking by MmmChef is brought to you in part by Findlay Foods, offering wholesale food distribution services in Ottawa, Kingston, and all points between since 1986.
Who doesn't love a cold treat on a hot day? Let me show you how to take a childhood favorite and turn it into a gourmet delight. You scream, I scream, we all scream for ice cream. This episode is one that I am most excited to show you. I've had a request from a little girl named Sophie since season 1 to do ice cream sandwiches. And in season 3, here we are. I thought, what a better way to elevate the classic ice cream sandwich than to bring you the MmmChef version. A gluten-free, often imitated, never duplicated Ferrero Rocher chocolate hazelnut cookie with a dairy-free MmmChef coconut yogurt ice cream in the middle. How delicious does that sound? So first I'm going to get my cookies going so I can get them in the oven so that they have enough time to cool while my ice cream is freezing for us to eat those sandwiches by the end of the show. So these cookies are a play on chocolate hazelnut, and it's my favorite flavor. They're kind of like a chocolate chip cookie, but instead of traditional flour, they're made with ground hazelnuts. I have 2 cups of ground hazelnut here. If you didn't want to use ground hazelnuts, you could use ground almonds or even ground seeds, like a mixture of flaxseed, hemp seed, sunflower seeds, cashew ground also works. Or if you don't want to use nuts at all, you can actually just use regular or gluten-free flour in this mix, but it won't taste like a Ferrero Rocher. I'm going to be adding 1 egg to my 2 cups of ground hazelnut. I'm adding ½ a cup of granulated sugar. You could use any type of granulated sugar, coconut sugar, maple sugar, brown or cassava sugar. I wouldn't suggest using any liquid sweetener in here because then it would make the batter just a little bit too wet. I also have just a tiny little bit of full-fat coconut cream. It's about 2½ to 3 tablespoons. You know me, I don't really measure. And I'm gonna give this a nice stir. I'm looking for this to come together. And some of you may have made a peanut butter cookie before that's made with just egg, sugar, and peanut butter. This is kind of similar to that. Look at that. I have this little bit of gluten-free all-purpose flour here. The reason I have that is because if my batter ends up being too wet, I can add a little sprinkle. Excellent. The consistency of my batter is actually really nice. It's not too wet. I don't think I need to add any flour to it, but there is one ingredient missing, my dark chocolate chips. I like to use semi-sweet 70% dark chocolate in this, but you can use milk chocolate or whatever chocolate chips you prefer. I'm gonna fold those in really nice. Actually, it is a tiny, tiny bit wet. I'm gonna just do a tiny little sprinkle just to help pull my batter together. Oh, that looks awesome. So this is actually a recipe that was invented by accident. I love to make hazelnut milk, and there's always leftover ground up hazelnuts from when I make the milk. And I was using it as a filler for muffins or loaves. And then I made a peanut butter chocolate chip cookie and thought to myself, I could just swap out the peanut butter for those ground up hazelnuts that I have in the freezer. And I did, and oh my goodness. Like I said, they taste just like that Ferrero Rocher that we all love so much. I've got a nice ice cream scoop here that I double use as a cookie scoop. I want all my cookies to be a consistent and uniform size so that when we're building the ice cream sandwiches, they all have a similar shape and size. Now these cookies will spread out just a little bit because of the amount of sugar in there. They will melt. And this batter makes me 6 perfect little cookies. I'm gonna take the bottom of my spoon and just flatten them slightly so that we have a flatter and not so fluffy big cookie to build our ice cream sandwiches on. I have my oven set at 350, and these cookies take anywhere from 9 to 12 minutes. So I'm gonna set a timer for 9 minutes, check them, lift them, and when the bottom is nice and brown, which might be at 9 or a couple minutes later, I'll pull them out. While my cookies are baking, I'm gonna get my ice cream mixture going. So I'm choosing to do a gelato style ice cream with my cultured coconut yogurt and coconut milk. It's a dairy-free ice cream. And I keep saying the word ice cream, but everyone knows about ice cream and gelato. And what are the real differences between these two things? Well, ice cream is more of a North American food. It's a cooked custard, kind of like a creme brulee, where you use egg yolks, sugar, and cream, and you cook it on the stove until it becomes nice and thick, and that is ice cream. The difference between ice cream and gelato is that gelato is a traditional Italian frozen dessert, but it doesn't have any eggs in it at all. So it's not a custard. It's still warmed so that the sugar can melt and the flavors can, amalgamate together, but there is no egg in a real gelato. I also find that a gelato has much smaller ice crystals, so it has a much smoother mouthfeel than a traditional ice cream. So I'm gonna get my pot on nice and low, probably between medium low and low. I just want to bring the coconut milk up to temperature so that it's not thick and solidified. So I have a full 500 ml jar of my famous Koyo, my cultured coconut yogurt. I'm going to add that in. So actually this isn't a gelato or an ice cream because it's actually kind of a frozen yogurt because I'm using coconut yogurt. If you didn't have cultured coconut yogurt, you don't have to use that. You can just use a full fat can of coconut cream. I have coconut milk here. So this is much thinner than the cultured coconut yogurt or a coconut cream. Get that in my pot. I've got about half a cup of maple syrup. It's my favorite thing to use to flavor this type of frozen dessert, but you could use honey, stevia if you're trying to watch your sugar intake, or just regular old sugar. And I'm going to add this lovely pinch of vanilla. This gives my ice cream a little bit of a ivory/beige tint. And I'm just gonna let this warm a tiny little bit and make sure that the fat in my coconut cream has been dissolved. And it has. Let me grab the insert for my ice cream machine. This is my frozen insert. A lot of people have different types of ice cream machines, but most of them have the same insert inside. So this stays in the freezer, so it's frozen and nice and cold, so that whenever you go to make a frozen dessert, you've got it ready. I'm gonna turn off my stove and pour my froyo mixture into my ice cream insert. Look how thick and beautiful that is. This is my ice cream machine. I'm gonna get this in here with my paddle. I'm gonna get this turned on so that on the break, it's becoming the creamy, smooth ice cream that I'm looking for. I'm gonna take those cookies out of the oven so that they have enough time to cool so we can build our ice cream sandwiches.
Did you know that the invention of the outboard motor was inspired by an event involving ice cream? Find out how after the break.
This program is brought to you in part by Findlay Foods, providing wholesale food distribution services including gluten-free, halal, kosher, and many other products in the Ottawa and Kingston areas.
It was around 1905 when the Norwegian-American inventor Ollie Evinrude began courting his future wife, Bessie Carey. As the story goes, the couple were having a picnic on this island that was about a few miles away from the shore, and on this picnic she expressed her desire for a dish of ice cream. Being the chivalrous gentleman he was, Mr. Evinrude rowed his boat for 2.5 miles across the water to get the ice cream and came back. But by the time he arrived, the ice cream had melted. It was then that he was determined to find a faster way to get across bodies of water. So the next time you go for a dish of ice cream, who knows what might inspire you to change the world?
I couldn't do an ice cream or a frozen dessert episode without showing you my favorite way to eat it. I'm an Italian girl and I love my espresso. So while my cookies are baking and my ice cream is churning, I've made myself a shot of espresso in my Italian Bialetti coffee percolator, and I'm gonna show you an affogato. But quickly, I'm just gonna grab my cookies out of the oven so that they can cool while we wait for the ice cream to churn. Look how beautiful and round and perfect these cookies look. I wish you could smell them. That roasted hazelnut flavor is just intoxicating. So my ice cream is churning in my ice cream machine, but I actually made some ice cream yesterday because I wanted to make sure that it would be frozen for us. So when I say affogato, what is that? Well, affogato actually translates to the English word drowning, and it's because I'm gonna drown my ice cream. So I'm gonna take my little espresso cup. Look at this beautiful ice cream. So these are the same ingredients that I just showed you before the break in the pot that I've put into my ice cream machine. And then I actually transferred it into this glass container and put it in the freezer overnight. This way it can firm up, because the ice cream that's gonna come out of your ice cream machine is actually a soft serve. And we want something a little bit more hard to go inside of our cookies, inside of our ice cream sandwiches. Look at that beautiful pull. Oh, this scoop might be too big for my little cup, but I'm gonna make it fit in there. Look at that. And I drowned my ice cream with my espresso. Look at that melt. And look at that. This is one of my favorite things. Salute. Wow, that's delicious. You don't need to add any cream or sugar because it's all in the ice cream. This is something that when I was traveling in Italy and in Rome, at all of the gelato shops, you can get an affogato. And instead of getting a scoop of gelato, I was eating and drinking probably 3 to 5 of these a day. I just can't get enough. Yum. Now that my cookies are cooling, I'll show you the bottom of them. They're nice and brown, where they're nice and solid because we want to be able to put an ice cream scoop right on top of there. I'm gonna gather some things together and some toppings like some chocolate chips, and I'll chop up some hazelnuts, and I'll have some almonds and some other things. And we're gonna assemble 3 delicious ice cream sandwiches after the break.
Food and discussion go hand in hand. Join the conversation on Instagram at MmmChef. Send us your questions. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you like to make. Maybe even send a picture of your own culinary creations. Good food, bringing people together for centuries. Be sure to follow Daniela on Instagram at MmmChef for all the latest posts, including behind-the-scenes looks of the Simply Cooking set and some delicious culinary creations that will definitely make you hungry. And if you've missed an episode, don't worry, because we have you covered. You can tune in or set your PVR to one of the rebroadcasts, or log on to rogerstv.com/Ottawa or our YouTube page to check out all of our previous seasons and episodes.
My cookies are all cooled to the touch and ready to be turned into ice cream sandwiches. My ice cream has come to the perfect temperature for me to scoop it nicely. The thing about this type of ice cream is that when you're freezing it, because it doesn't have eggs and it's dairy-free, it will get a little bit hard. So I actually like to take it out of the freezer about 10 to 15 minutes before I want to use it. This allows it to get to a good temperature and to a good consistency so that I can pull it and it's not hard as a rock. So I'm going to build 3 delicious ice cream sandwiches. I'm going to show you how I wrap them in parchment to store them in the freezer. I've got my 2 cookies here. I'm going to put a lovely scoop right in the middle. Look at that. And then my cookie on, and I've got some really great toppings here. I'm going to mush so that the ice cream can come out to the edges, and I'm going to slowly roll it in my slivered almonds. This can be done with any type of nut or seed or anything you like, sprinkles, all that kind of stuff. I want to make sure that my ice cream is coated. And then I have these pieces of parchment that I've cut. I like to wrap them like this, and I actually just fold over the little triangle edges so that it stays together. And then I flip it over so that it will stay. The reason I like to make these ice cream sandwiches and then put them in the freezer is because then they'll solidify and the ice cream and the cookie will kind of become one, and they'll become like a real ice cream sandwich. And so if I bit into this right now, the ice cream is so soft that the cookies would just smush and the ice cream would go everywhere. So by making them in advance and popping them in the freezer, this allows them to, harden up a little bit. And then when we actually eat them, it's not as big of a mess. You can see the ice cream is getting really soft. So my second one, I've got some shredded coconut here. And the softer the ice cream gets, the less you have to smush. So I'm coating this one with shredded coconut. I'm going to do the same thing. Fold that over, flip it the other way, fold that over, and flip it upside down. One more. All right. My last ice cream sandwich. And this one, I'm going to roll in some more of those semi-sweet chocolate chips. But the chocolate chips are so big that I think for this one, I actually have to use my hand and smush some of these chocolate chips right into the sides so that they'll stay. All right, that didn't work as well as I wanted it to, but you get the idea. I'm gonna fold this one together. And I'm gonna pop these into the freezer so they can solidify for me so I can eat one and show you in just a few minutes. So I have a little bit of extra time, and I also have a lot of extra ice cream. So I thought that I would show you a way to make a delicious ice cream sundae with some fresh ingredients and the leftovers of my ice cream sandwiches. Because when you're making the ice cream sandwiches with these toppings, you certainly are always going to have a little bit left over. And if you know me, you know I do not like to waste anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rest of these toppings as fillings to change the flavor of my ice cream. I have these super cute pineapple ice cream sundae cups. And the first ice cream that I'm going to make in here is going to be a chocolate chip strawberry ice cream. So I have these beautiful local strawberries. I'm just gonna give them a quick little chop. Maybe I'll only use 2 or 3 strawberries. There's 2, and here's number 3. I'm gonna scoop some ice cream in there probably 1, 2, 3, and 4 scoops. And the rest of these chocolate chips, because again, we don't want to waste anything. Everyone's seen those people at the mall or, you know, at their local ice cream shop where they take the ingredients and they mix it in with the ice cream. This is a similar idea. And so as you see, the ice cream is melted a little bit. I'm gonna get these in my sundae cups. And then I'll pop these in the freezer also so that they can solidify for me. All right, I'll make the other 2 quickly. We've got 4 more scoops of ice cream in the bottom of my bowl. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hard, that's a hard spot. 4. And in this one, I'm gonna add my shredded coconut. So this becomes a play on a coconut ice cream because the base is my cultured coconut yogurt and it's coconut milk, and I've just added some shredded coconut. So this guy, I'm gonna give a nice stir and get this one in my sundae cup. It is a hot day. You can see that ice cream just melting in front of your eyes. Hot July summer in Eastern Ontario. We've got the 3rd ice cream flavor. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm gonna add the rest of these slivered almonds. Mix that up. And get this one into my sundae cup. I have 1 more flavor I'm going to make for you because again, I don't like to waste anything. And I already had a shot of espresso in my Affogato, and I still have a little bit of espresso inside my percolator. So let me get these 3 quickly into the freezer so they can tighten up nicely for us. And now I'm going to turn all of the rest of this ice cream into my favorite flavor. And what's my favorite flavor? Coffee. I love coffee ice cream. So I've got about a shot of coffee in here. Of course, now this warm coffee is totally going to melt my ice cream, but that's okay because I'm gonna stick this guy back in the freezer. Every time I think about summer and ice cream or frozen desserts, I actually think about a really funny story that happened to me with my dad when I was little. My dad, just like me, is an espresso connoisseur. We love our espresso. I definitely got that from my dad. But when I was maybe 3 or 4, when it was just me and my dad, before he married my awesome stepmom and my sister and brother came along, my dad used to take me for ice cream and all that stuff. And one time in the middle of winter, all I wanted was a fudgicle. So he puts me in the car and we go all the way down to the corner store. I remember I was waiting in the car for him while he got out and went into the store, and he came back out with 2 fudgicles. He opened them all up, handed me one, and he had one, and we cheersed our fudgicles. But we didn't realize, and also didn't know that this happened, the fudgicles were freezer burnt. So the second that we touched them to our lips, they stuck. And my dad ripped his off, and I ripped mine off, and at 4 years old, I screamed because my lips were bleeding. I mean, it hurt and was bad at the time, but looking back, every time I eat a fudgicle or eat a popsicle of any kind, I think of that memory, and it really makes me laugh and smile. So my coffee ice cream is all set. I'm putting that in the freezer to get nice and solidified. And I'm taking out one of the ice cream sandwiches. It has not set in the 35 seconds since I put it back in the freezer. So it is a mess and I'm not going to eat it. But actually, What a better way to end an episode about messy, delicious ice cream. How about if I just go for it and I let that ice cream go everywhere? This one is the one with the almonds on the outside. Okay, here I go. That's delicious and so simple. I really hope that you give this a try. See you next time.